it. So I found out I didn't understand why a lot of the critics was hating on the Michael movie, but I found out why.
Me
And
too.
I don't think that it is a valid stance. A lot of the critics are hating on the Michael movie because they feel like that it was safe and
Whitewashed.
it avoided a lot of his controversies. And to that you say what?
To that I say th- these critics or anybody that has the opinion that it whitewashed his story or it didn't get into any of the negative things. I question how much they truly know Michael Jackson's timeline of his life, of when he started to actually go through certain controversies and when certain things started to hit
Because that was
headlines.
around the 90s, right? When he
So the
really
first
started getting into
allegation,
a lot of that.
right, right. So if we watch the movie, we know that this cutoff point of where
It's
there's
89 or 88.
is 88. That's the cutoff point. Those first initial allegations with legal problems aren't until about 1993. So that would tell you that they hadn't even reached that point in terms of a timeline frame.
Right,
They hadn't even
right.
reached that point to where you can really dive in and get to that. So anybody that actually knows anything about Michael Jackson, they should just know that. So to me, it's silly to mention something like that for a movie that cuts off of his life, or that cuts off at the point of 1988. You got a whole
Yeah,
nother 20 years
right.
where he's like the most dragged man in the media, but it really doesn't get to the height of that until the 90s. So to me, somebody that's saying that, I feel like is just reaching for something, and I don't think that it's valid.
I
Now, were
do.
there certain things that were controversies during that time in the 80s? Yeah, but it's things like his cosmetic surgeries, his
Right.
nose, his which they did touch on that.
Now that
But
wasn't
they
that
didn't
wasn't
really.
the Wacko Jacko era, was it? The Wacko
I
Jacko
mean,
era
nah, I
was
mean
the
that's
90s,
way
right?
I know, but I mean that's
Yeah.
kind of way
Yeah.
later. But if I'm not mistaken, that Thriller era, I do believe he slept in a hyperbolic chamber during that era. So it was certain things that he had did
And is that
that
really a
grabbed a lot,
controversy, bro? Like
huh?
athletes do that shit all the time. Is that really a
Yeah, I
controversy?
know. These were, but this was literally because it was Michael Jackson, so they was literally like anything that he did was looked at as weird or strange. You know what I'm saying? Were there a couple of things that could have been um highlighted in those 80s, little small little things? Because at this point, people kind of did question what he was doing in terms of cosmetic wise, but past that, it wasn't really nothing in it. And they did to highlight that, though they didn't go over the controversies of it in terms of how it was from a media perspective back then. They did touch on him doing that. And there's also a couple of other timeline things that clash as it pertains to that movie, but that's just me. If we're going step by step on what people
Yeah.
complain about,
Yeah.
that's me uh asking myself, how is it valid that you're claiming that this movie was whitewashed or it didn't get into any of the controversies? Anybody that's done any type of research, and media for that matter, because they were so obsessed with Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
should damn well know at what point in times in certain timelines and which eras that he was in. Michael Jackson had like 4 or 5 eras. So
Right.
you know which era he was in every time a different controversy hit, or every time he was going on tour. If it was this tour, oh, that's the history era. Oh, that's the bad era. Oh, that's the dangerous era. Like which eras
Based
certain
on his
things happen.
clothing, basic. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And so to me, for that cutoff to be 1988, and for them to talk about what else did y'all want them to talk about? Like,
Well, again, I
you
believe
know?
that a lot of people thought that they were getting a life story. They thought that they were getting essentially a Temptations-esque movie. I like to say Jackson 5 American Dream style story, because even Cray popped on and was saying that he wanted, being a fan of Michael Jackson, he wanted a more in-depth story. But for a man that
Yeah,
has so
yeah,
many layers, for a person that
for
had
sure.
so much going on, and I believe, to me, after watching this movie was just about Michael finding his voice. This movie was just about Michael stepping out the shadow of his dad and finding his voice. So ultimately, they delivered on what they were
Yeah.
trying to accomplish. Now, the story goes that Antoine Fuqua, that's his name, right?
Yeah, I don't. I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure how you pronounce it, but
Okay.
yeah, it's something like
They
that.
they say that there was a bunch of reshoots that had to happen because they took
Yeah,
out a bunch of the controversy because the estate or there were certain suits and legalizations that were going on at the time. And
yeah,
so it was apparently they tried to have these controversies or have some controversies in, but people came in and forced them to reshoot. Outside
yeah,
of, I mean, if that is the case, so what? It was still
yeah,
a very good movie for what it was. I still
yeah,
got goosebumps at
yeah,
certain
yeah,
parts. I still
yeah,
enjoyed and felt like I was watching his story for the
yeah,
first time. And the acting in this movie was
yeah.
phenomenal.
The
Bro,
moment you
the
see Jafar,
casting
the moment you see Jafar appear as Michael on the screen, you feel like you're looking at Michael,
at
and you're
Michael.
what
Yeah,
the mannerisms, the
yeah.
voice tone,
Voice tone.
just the
Yes.
way he act, the facial expressions. I mean, you
Yeah.
could tell he had his uncle down to a T.
Yeah.
I dare say, like he had him so good. I dare near say almost Oscar nominated worthy.
I
Now,
think so.
in terms of his acting, now in terms of the film itself, man, everybody
Number one movie in the
consider,
world,
but
by the way.
for things like for biopics, especially anything that has to do with Michael Jackson, everybody's gonna consider themselves a Michael
A
Jackson
Michael
super
Jackson
fan,
expert.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
You
you're
know,
right.
I feel
You're right.
like everybody could be feel like that they could be a director and direct a Michael Jackson film because they have a vision on how they would
The
tell his
story should be told.
story.
Yeah,
You
the
know what
story
I'm
should be
saying?
told. Yeah.
Because there's things that you look at and you be like, there's obviously, yeah, looking back on it, there were things that were definitely rushed in the film where you're kind of like, I wish they would have spent more, or what led to this, or like with his nose, that first surgery on his nose wasn't just random. He broke his nose in a dance rehearsal. That's why he initially got his first nose
But they
surgery.
made it like
Yeah,
he looked at it, he looked spoiler. He looked at it, he looked, seen that he had him. Actually, they put a
yeah,
little nugget in the beginning,
yeah.
basically saying
Was
that
there
Joe teased
yeah.
him about it to give him his insecurities.
Was there always the insecurity there? Yeah, sure. But that first initial surgery, he broke his nose during dance rehearsal. Now he kept going back, obviously, to get his nose updated and reshaped and
To
everything
get it
like that.
tapered, he kept going to get it tapered.
But I mean, for lack of a better term, yeah, he kept going to get a
A
uh,
lineup. He kept going to get a
yeah,
lineup.
line up, edge up, yeah. But yeah, so things like that I see, and I'm like, as a MJ fan who's done a lot of research, I know certain things that you see in timeline wise, and you're like, timeline wise, I just feel like that's rushed. My
Yeah,
biggest thing about
yeah.
the film was, it kind of goes into the Jackson 5 just already just being signed so quickly, and it
It did.
doesn't really
It did.
show the grind
They
of
showed they
them
showed him on the Ed Sullivan show.
uh, but just minor, like, I
Yeah, it
mean,
was
in
small.
terms of
It was
like,
small.
I
But
mean, in terms
again,
of them,
but again, this movie was about Michael finding his voice. So
yeah,
while I
yeah, for sure,
understand that we wanted more, and I being in the theater, I remember thinking in my head, like, damn, well, that was quick. Well, man, we really got through it. Like he's already he's already 17 now, 18. Like,
yeah, yeah,
that's crazy. But
yeah.
at the same token, it wasn't about the Jackson. I mean, this is what everybody was telling me. It wasn't about the Jackson 5.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's not a. If you want Jackson 5, you have to watch Jackson 5 American
yeah,
Dream.
you have to.
If you
Yeah,
want a Jackson 5 story, because, and I've told people this about that movie. That movie cuts off at the beginning of Thriller. Like,
yeah.
the beginning of Thriller era, that movie cuts off. It doesn't go past Motown 25 for that
And
matter.
you
And
still
that,
had two more Jackson 5 tours or two more tours that he did
yeah,
with his brother after that.
right,
Left.
right. And they, the closing of that movie is actually them on the victory tour, if I'm not mistaken. Like the closing of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, that movie really goes in detail about the Jackson Five, and this is more so Michael. So I get them wanting to jump to
Right.
basically him trying to break from his brother so quickly. You understand what I'm saying? Um,
But if
so
you're a
you
fan
know,
of
there's
Michael, you understand this. Like if you're a fan of Michael, you know these things. And people have said this constantly. Man, if you really wanted a deep dive, that movie would have been 6.5 hours if we really
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about it. Because people are
right,
not understanding the history of the Jackson Five and the mountains they climbed
yeah,
before he even got to be who he is. But this is about the name of the movie is called Michael. That is the name of the movie. So at that point, you have to accept that and understand where they're going. Now, I was going to say that there's never been a movie, and we know what it said at the end, but there's never been a movie to touch on his life after the bad era or even during the bad era. Not unless you want to count Moonwalker. There's
I
never
mean,
really been a film to really touch on that.
so I mean, you got I mean, you have Flex Alexander's
And I stand by
depiction.
what I said. There's never been a movie that touches on that era of Michael
Yeah.
Jackson's life.
Yeah, I mean, no, not in detail. I think this will probably be the first time where we get a depiction of Michael Jackson. And like, depending on,
How
I'm
far
sure
they
we'll
go.
get
Yeah,
that
depending on how far they
next
go.
installation, but depending on how far it goes, I'm sure we'll get more of 90s, and we'll see depictions from a cinematic perspective of MJ that we've never seen. I
Well,
think that
the
eventually we
crazy
can
part
get that.
about it is a lot of these niggas ain't even really complain. Like the fans love it, bro. I know that the score, I heard that the
Scored
score is
high,
the
yeah,
biggest
with the
the discrepancy
yeah,
between fans and critics.
yeah,
Fans scored around 94%, and the
yeah.
critics are scoring it right now. I think it rose to about 40%, but it debuted at a
Okay,
27%. So the critics who I don't know, again, they're looking for the gossip. We run in
yeah, yeah,
a era of gossip, but I don't think it adds anything to the story for real. Not this one, because for what? Why do we care about that? We're trying to celebrate Michael. We're trying to have a different, and this, mind you, this was a fresh story told. I felt like I was experiencing something new. This
yeah,
didn't, I told you my issues. I didn't want to see it because I felt like I've already seen all the other movies and I didn't need to watch it, right? But honestly, when I watched this film, I felt like it was a fresh take on this story. And I think it was a good take.
yeah,
Honestly, it was
yeah,
good enough. I mean, we didn't need
yeah.
to
No,
hear the controversies. It doesn't give anything. It doesn't add anything to this story
yeah.
that was told. This specific story.
Yeah, no, this specific story that was told, I don't think you can really get into all of that. Yeah, as it pertains to what Lecrae said, like, yeah, I wish we could have got certain other things um in depth with that, thriller era, kind
Yeah,
of off the wall transition to thriller. I think
yeah.
there's a lot of detail missing in that in terms of what he thought, how he felt. We ultimately know that he wanted to stop touring and making music with his brothers ultimately and wanted to do his own thing. But I think that they just quickly got into those things that it didn't show things like um, now I heard it was also some other legalities. I heard that they was eventually going to mention people like Diana Ross and the Wiz, but Diana
Mhm.
Ross, I believe her and her people backed out, so they couldn't mention anything about Diana Ross.
You
So
want to know
you
what's
kind of take
crazy?
so you
The credits showed, and I thought that was weird. The credits showed the Wiz.
oh
In the
really?
yeah, at the end it showed the Wiz,
Hmm.
but I don't remember any meant. So yeah, that had to
Yeah,
happen.
no, it had no
Yeah, that had to
mention.
happen in there. Yeah,
It
it
had
had no
no
mention of the
mention,
Wiz.
but
Yeah,
you got to realize that that was pretty essential
to
Michael
Michael being in that era, in the
Quincy
time frame that they're telling.
Quincy Jones was working on that film, if I'm not mistaken. So that was essential with Quincy Jones, those beginning stages. And then not only that, um, Michael was living in New York for a little bit, and these are, based off of videos that I've seen
Mm.
and research that I've done throughout the years. He was living in New York a little bit. The kind of the off the wall era. And he was kind of already stepping out and kind of doing his own thing or whatever the case may be.
Hey,
And
Joe said he could do whatever he want to, but from 9 to 5, his ass is his, bro.
he was gaining a little bit of sense of his independence then in that moment. But they
Yeah,
really didn't. They showed him pretty much at the house,
they did.
at that house in Cali.
To be fair, they didn't show him making Off the Wall. They showed him making Thriller, but they didn't even show him making Off the Wall. Not
Wait,
for
in
real.
studio?
Yeah, they didn't. They did show in studio, but they never showed when they showed him working on a project at his house. That was Thriller.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Off the
I get
wall,
what you're saying. I mean, they
you just
wanted
got
to,
studio shots.
Thriller. They wanted to
Highlight the greatest selling album of all
right,
time. Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, I feel
What did it
like
say? 25
Thriller,
M's? It's
I feel
crazy.
like even Thriller was rushed through. The Motown 25, I feel like that was way bigger than the little montage. Well, it wasn't a
I don't
little
know.
montage.
I feel like they captured
No,
the moment they needed to capture with the Motown 25.
they didn't capture how important that performance was.
As
Like the
far as the
conversations,
first time with the jacket, like
the
that.
conversations surrounding that concert was, we need you to do this concert. Mike Barry Gordy
Oh, for
personally
Motown, for
requesting.
Motown.
Right.
Yeah.
Barry Gordon personally requesting him, and him basically saying, the only way you got me is if you let me have this solo so I could put on my Thriller.
Okay.
So I could put on my
Okay.
Thriller album and showcase it
Because I was
and
about to say that doesn't.
perform Billie Jean for the first time live. And to me, I feel like if you're trying to stress the importance of how important
It
Thriller
was.
was
Yeah.
from a marketing standpoint on what he was trying to do in his vision, I think that you have to show those type of conversations on what his vision was. But like I said, everybody feels like that they're a super fan and feel like that they can direct and tell Michael Jackson's story properly and better than the next person. But I
You
just
know who
feel
would have
like
been able to
that,
tell his story the best?
huh?
You know who would have been able to tell his story the best?
Who?
Michael.
I mean,
Michael's vision
yeah, yeah,
for his music videos and for what he wanted to be and for what
yeah,
he saw. Michael would have been, and I know obviously we're like, oh, he can't do it.
yeah.
Michael would have been the
So
best
so
person to
that's
tell his
what I would
story.
say about in terms of like feeling like certain things were
Were
rushed through.
left
I feel
out.
like that Motown 25 performance was in getting him there and him using that strategically as a promotion tool for Billie Jean and Thriller. I felt like that was way too important for him not to at least have some type of little scene about it instead of, oh boy, he's just now performing. Now he's just, don't get me wrong, the performance was incredible. All the performances was
It was.
incredible,
Yeah, in the
really.
movie. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you can see Jafar just really becoming one
With
and
Michael. Yeah.
becoming Michael and not trying to actually mimic him, but actually
Being
becoming
him,
him, especially in
embodying him.
performances. Especially, I mean, the performance I keep hearing about is Human Nature in that movie. Like when people talk about the best performances in that movie, like,
I don't know. I
so
think Motown 25 was the best performance for me.
yeah,
Just because I know how, you mentioned it. I know how big that moment was.
yeah,
I think the mannerisms of the moonwalk, where with the facial expressions and the
yeah,
shoulder movement,
yeah,
he really embodied that fully. I think that this movie humanized Michael in a way that a lot of the other movies never did. They always made Michael larger than life, and we know that he was, but it truly humanized Michael um, to show, man, he really was struggling. He really just wanted to be normal. He really just, had this gift, but didn't really care necessarily. Or we knew he had a heart for the world and trying to bring people together. But this was one of the first times that, to me, that it seemed Michael was in fact
hold up, bro.
humanized.
Dion Cole as Don King
Killed it,
is
bro.
not
Killed it,
something
bro.
I thought I was gonna
That wouldn't have been
see.
on your bingo card. That would have been your
Yeah,
bingo card
nah,
for
but he did. I
2026.
mean, he did an
Killed it.
amazing job though.
He said, "You're not bullshitting me, are you, Joe?" Michael will
Yeah,
do it.
bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, he Dion Cole, he's been on a run, but
Nigga, you
yeah,
talking
that
about Deion Cole, nigga, Lorenz Tate, nigga.
Lorenz Tate, yeah,
Killed
Lorenz
that.
Tate did good. Yeah, he
Come
did
on,
really
man.
good.
Even
Yeah.
even the dude that played not Barry Go, but played Q Quincy Jones, bro. The swag
Oh
that he
yeah,
brought,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
swag
He
he
was
brought to
good.
that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
He
think
was.
that
But that's another thing, bro. Quincy had
had a
way
way
too
bigger role.
much.
Yeah,
Quincy had way too much of a hand in helping bring those albums to
yeah.
life and making those albums for them to just give him a couple of studio sessions with Michael
If
and not
you
at least
go,
like no one-on-ones or the struggle of trying to make Thriller like, you know what I'm saying? Like
hey, I
I just
know,
feel
I
like that
know.
things like that.
If you truly want to know or understand the genius of Quincy Jones behind these records, I recommend everybody go and listen to um, the big ones. So I say Beat It, I say Billie Jean, but listen to them on Spotify. I know I told you this as well, because you will see how meticulous he was. The way that Spotify kind of splits these tracks up and really allows you to hear them. And if you do extracurricular activities, it will be even better for you to listen to it. And listen, I always tell people to listen to it in a car. Something about a car test. Go and listen to it on Spotify, and you will see how he truly brought this out, from the horns to the strings to the, mind you, the electric guitar that wasn't even really a big thing yet, per se. For them to truly like isolate that and bring that, bro, it is such a masterpiece. And you know, Quincy had a hand in bringing in these large orchestras,
Yeah.
and he wanted it live. We were not doing anything electronic. I want you singing on top of these live instruments. Like, yeah, Quincy Jones had a much bigger role. Quincy Jones was probably in that movie maybe 15 minutes, and he had a much bigger
Man,
role in making
was it that long? I mean, you may be
yeah,
surprised to know that
it
maybe it
probably
wasn't even
wasn't.
15,
Yeah, it
a full
probably wasn't.
15 minutes.
I'm about to
You,
Google it and
you know
see.
what I'm saying? I just feel like there should have been a lot more brainstorming with Michael and Quincy in terms of trying to make this album because it wasn't easy. And I just think that that just goes back into them rushing through certain things to basically get to, you know what we're here for. We know you want to see the Thriller music video. We know you
Right.
want to see the bad, not bad, Beat It music video. We know you want to see
They
this
said he
Billie
they
Jean
said he
performance.
they said he appeared briefly in about 3 to 4 scenes.
Yeah, that seems about
Yeah,
right. But
about 3 to 4 scenes. And I,
and
like you said, I can't find the actual like number behind it.
yeah,
But yeah,
it's probably
they
about
said three to
four.
four
It's
scenes.
probably four at least.
You think it's 4?
Uh,
No, I couldn't find the actual minutes number, is what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah, right, right.
But I like that. His role was too pivotal
Yeah.
in that era that they are highlighting. His role was
Overall,
too pivotal.
overall,
Not
as it
having him there that
pertains
much.
to the film,
Yeah,
I will say that Jafar, and the actor that played Joseph Jackson, I will say their
they stole the movie.
performances.
Yeah, they stole the movie.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
for
will
sure.
say their performances saved the movie as a whole. Um, like I said, he has so many fans that it like people are gonna be upset and they're gonna find things to be upset about. There's things I've seen where I'm like, that should have been done differently. But I think as a whole, it's a really good movie. And I'm rating it about I'm gonna give it about an 8, 7.5 to 8. 7.5 to 8 for
I will
sure.
say, as a person going into this movie with zero expectations, as somebody that just wanted to enjoy the movie. And I wasn't high on the movie when it came out. I didn't care about none of the interviews. I think I might have watched one trailer. As somebody with zero expectations for the movie, this superseded anything that I could have asked for, honestly. And you say those two people saved the movie, but honestly, all the actors. Did you see the casting of Bill, bro? The casting of Bill was insane. The security guard, head of security, split image, bro.
Nia Long,
Nia Long did
she
excellent.
did an amazing job.
I do love the dynamic that Jafar and the guy that played Joe Jackson had. It seemed like they were really father and son. They did an excellent job. But I mean, this movie, the person who was in charge of the wardrobe needs a round of applause and a standing ovation, because they got every outfit of Michael's spot on. They got every outfit of the Jackson 5 spot on. For those of us who,
it's amazing, right? That we can see a depiction of Michael Jackson on the big screen, in great quality.
Yes.
And can have those things come to life that he did, and you can see it almost like it's in real time, because
it felt like it. It
you
did
know what
not
I'm
feel like we
saying?
were living through his life. It more like felt like we were there in the moment.
And the acting and the dance moves and choreography, all that was really good and so precise. You could tell Jafar worked his butt off.
To say something bad about it, because I don't think I really said anything too bad about it. We talked about this at the beginning of the stream. I don't like how they villainized Joe Jackson, but we talked about that in depth, and I'm not going to go there. I know you couldn't make a movie like this without having the Thriller music video or showing how big that was, because that was kind of Michael's first step into taking creative control and making a mini movie. I totally understand that. That scene just wasn't good to me. I just didn't like it because
we talked about it.
That was my only. That's my only issue.
So that scene. So you have certain points where, like in biopics, where scenes and moments feel like a recreation or fan service, rather than you actually feeling like you're watching the actual thing, or what's supposed to come off or appear as the real thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And for the most part of this movie, I think they did that.
It can almost turn into fan service. That was the only point in the movie where it almost felt like that whole thing was cosplay, and where it may have been a little bit difficult to just really get submerged in it and say, "Oh, this is Michael Jackson." Unlike
they could have got a better makeup artist.
You know what I'm saying?
They could have did that the right way.
As I had those reactions with the Motown 25 performance, and Beat It and Human Nature performance, like I had all these feelings with those performances, like, yo, that's Mike, that's like Michael Jackson. Yeah. But the whole Thriller scene, that was the first one where it was like, it felt like
that's not Michael.
Cosplay.
You felt like cosplay. You knew it in your heart of hearts, like that's not Michael. That was the first time that I actually looked and was like, I snapped out of the nostalgia or I was like, oh,
you realize somebody playing movie,
Michael.
That was the first time where you realize that this is a movie and a recreation.
Exactly.
That's just, and granted, man, a lot of people don't give the credit of how incredibly Thriller was done for that time and how expensive that was and the vision Michael had. And so to recreate that to perfection, they would have literally had to recreate that, like not no movie, like
no. You would have had to recreate it. You would have had to try to find.
You
would have had to try to find the original makeup artist. You would have had to try to find. You would have had to go find.
how
Yeah,
you
yeah,
going to recreate a movie that was already meant to be a movie?
movie. Yeah, yeah, I like that. I like
That
that.
was it was
Yeah,
already a
you
movie.
had
So
no.
it's like
Yeah,
trying to
exactly.
so it's like almost trying to recreate that moment. And so you
Yeah,
feel kind of like out of it at that
yeah,
point. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
So all in
Uh
all, I mean, all in all, bro, I give it you gave it a 7.5, a 8. I give it a 8.5, close to a
okay.
9, because I haven't seen any Michael movies be done this well. Then
Okay.
especially, it says something to have your blood relative playing you and not some random
Yeah.
actor that Lifetime tried to do that I did not even
Yeah.
give a chance to watch. It's
Yeah.
just kind of one of them things, man. But all in all, I don't think it deserves the hate that it got. And I just tell everybody, just go and see it. Go and watch it for yourself. Show yourself approved. Okay. Go and watch, go and watch the
Now
movie yourself.
all in
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I seen it on opening weekend. Now
Hey,
I can get into all these
hey, we a
reviews
part
and
of
stuff and
we a part of
spoilers.
the, what did they say? It made 25 million first week box office, or
Yeah, yeah.
200 M's,
Yeah, I'm
something
a
like
part of
that.
that. Yep.
Biggest a box office opening for a
Yeah,
biopic.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to be a part of that, for real. They say it's probably gonna be the biggest movie globally. So if they weren't gonna do it number 2 before, they definitely have all the motivation in the world to do it now, man.